Hello, and welcome to Ruth Reacts to Books. I'm your host, Ruxie Ruth McGouth, and today I'm reacting to A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This is actually a book of 4 of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes novels, and A Study in Scarlet is the first one. So I will tell you about the book. I'll read you kind of a little bit about it. I'll tell you what star rating out of 5 I gave the book, and I'll tell you what I liked, what I didn't like. I will tell you the food that I've given you a recipe for that I think goes along with this book, and I'll tell you what nails I'm wearing, which you can sort of tell. It's called A Study in Scarlet, and my nails are sort of scarlet colored. All right, so I'm not going to be reading directly from this book cover because this talks just actually a little bit more about Sherlock Holmes since it's a compilation of 4, but I've got my Study in Scarlet right here that I'm going to read to you. So A Study in Scarlet is an 1887 detective novel written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The story marks the first appearance of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, who would become the most famous detective duo in popular fiction. When a post-war search for London lodgings introduces ailing Dr. H. Watson to quirky chemist Sherlock Holmes, their collaboration in the art of observation and deduction begins. Congenial flatmates and even better colleagues, the pair is quickly drawn into a case of murder and revenge that has Scotland Yard at their wits' end. Although Conan Doyle wrote 56 short stories featuring Holmes, A Study in Scarlet is one of only 4 full-length novels in the original canon. The novel was first work of detective fiction to incorporate the magnifying glass as an investigative tool. Okay, I can't say that that's actually true. So, all right, maybe in the picture. So this must be the 4 stories they reference here. So maybe there's 56 short stories, and then this is the book that has the 4 full-length novels. So I read the first one, The Study in Scarlet, and I have to say that it was great. I gave it 4.25 stars, so I really liked it. Now, my knowledge of Sherlock Holmes comes from watching Benedict Cumberbatch, of course, on the BBC. And I've seen Robert Downey Jr. as well, but Benedict Cumberbatch, I think, is the best. And the writing for that was also spectacular. And I think, they did this story. It was the first episode, the first series of, they did this one with the taxi driver. That's what this one is. The Study in Scarlet is with the taxi driver. And so if you've seen that, you know what I'm talking about. However, it's not exactly the same as the actual book. So there were some parts of the story that I recognized from watching Benedict Cumberbatch in all his amazing Sherlock glory. And then there were some parts that were absolutely brand new to me. So I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed the mystery. There were certainly parts that were exactly the same. Him and Watson meeting. There are things that he does that are exactly the way that it's done on the television show. I'm going to try really hard not to give spoilers, and though I know many of you have probably seen it. So there were lots of things I knew. There was entire parts that were completely not done, that they completely cut out of the show. For example, don't worry, this doesn't give any spoilers. In the book, the person that does the crime, there's an entire section of the book that is devoted fully to that person telling their story. In the show, we do not get that at all. We never go into that person's story, and we don't get it in any way. So there was it felt like a whole nother book that we got in this book, where we got to hear this entire story that we never got in the show, because they just didn't incorporate, they just completely cut that part out. I mean, it just must not have fit the narrative they were telling, because they were focusing more on the Sherlock part and not so much on that particular piece of the story. So that was very interesting. Funny enough, like in this book, Watson's very focused on being frustrated that Sherlock doesn't get more credit for what he's doing. Maybe that's in some of the shows. that was funny. At the end, at the very end of the book, it ends with a quote in Latin. Of course, they assume that probably everyone knows Latin from the 1800s. So I didn't know it. So I had to look it up. So I thought that was fun, trying to figure out what that was referring to. AI helped me with that, which they certainly didn't have in the 1800s. That's cool. The only thing I didn't like, there were a few outdated references that were verging on offensive, but I have to say, significantly less than I expected. So this was written in 1887. That's a long time ago. I recently read, in the last year or so, last 2 years. It was probably about 2 years ago. I read the first James Bond book, and that one was significantly more offensive than this one. Okay. And that was written more recently. So this just had maybe one or two little things that were said that were like, oh, that could be problematic. But honestly, much less problematic than the James Bond book that I read. So I would read another one of these. I'm not reading another James Bond. Sorry, Ian Fleming. For the food that I've given you, they like to drink their tea. So I have put together a recipe for you, pulled off the internet, not put together by me. Sorry, I'm trying to take credit, for a biscuit recipe, and not the American type, the British type. So y'all might call it a cookie over here, to dip in your tea. So this is something you would make, cook it, and then you dip it in your tea, to have with your tea, and it tastes nice. When it has that tea flavor, it's kind of gets soft and delicious. So Sherlock and Watson might enjoy that. Their landlady would certainly be the one making it for them. They wouldn't be making it themselves. And then for my nails, studying Scarlet. So I've got Rio Red going on here. So yeah, this is maybe the third time I've gotten to use this set. These sets really spread themselves long, so I'm very grateful for that. I'm a cheap person here, so when I spend $14 on a set of nails, I like that I get to wear them 3 times. Fantastic. So yeah, here we go. Studying Scarlet. It was a great book. Definitely would read another one. And this book was a gift to me several years ago from my friend Gabriella. Thanks, Gabby. It was a great book. Can't wait to hear the other 3 full-length ones, and then maybe I'll have to hear some of the short stories about Sherlock and Watson. So awesome. Hope you all have a good week. It's been a rough week for me. I lost a friend this week. It's definitely put things in perspective. So I love all of you, every single one of you watching this, even if I don't know you. I've read that thing that says if people can hate people for no reason, I can love people for no reason. So let's put more love out there in the world this week. If we can do that, that'd make the world a better place. So, all right. See you all. Bye.